I know you're gonna dig this.
Welcome to On the One, 2016.
Yes.
Another Dayton gem.
Okay.
A Dayton gem. Yes, sir. First of 2016, as a matter of fact. Stupid excited.
Yes.
Please give us your name and who you are in the music industry.
My name is Alan Foster. I'm a musician. My band, I have a band called Alan Foster's Redemption, kind of a funk rock R&B vibe. Behind the scenes, I've worked at MGM. I've worked at the Recording Academy, which is the Grammys, and I got an opportunity to tour with the great Little Richard and be a part of that world for a while. So currently, just doing the Alan Foster Redemption thing right now. Yeah.
So, Mr. Foster, tell me, how did you become aware of the Funk Center?
You know, I've always kept in contact with Dayton, Ohio, you know, and through my good friend Oscar Pittman, through Facebook, and then eventually meeting you and David, you know, I heard about it really in detail through my friend Frankie Cashwati, drummer with Boosie's Rubber Band. So I've been aware of it for a couple of years now, and on the outside didn't know all what was really going on with it, but I got educated on it, and here I am.
Well, as you know, in the Funk Center, you know, we are trying to, you know, build a museum.
Yes.
And we're looking forward to musicians and Daytonians as yourself of having a role in the Funk Center. Is that something that you'd be amicable to?
I'm looking forward to be a part of this. I think it's a great vision that you have. I think this is something that is long overdue for the city of Dayton. I can't see why this was something that was established a long time ago, but you know, better late than never. And I'm just glad to be a part of it, and definitely any way I can help to take it to where it needs to go, I'll lend my energy to do that. Yeah.
Well, now that you say that, I mean, so I'm sure you've been mulling over in your mind, how will you use your position to increase awareness for the Funk Center?
Well, I think just talking about word of mouth, because again, I think maybe a lot of people don't really know what you're trying to do here. So I guess my role right now could be to educate them on what's going on and stress the importance of being involved, because the big picture is this music was a phenomenon that changed lives, changed the world in many ways. I mean, this music is, while working at the Grammys, I understood and saw how the musicians from Dayton and Ohio and just this region in general influenced the music industry over the years. So through word of mouth and just educating those who don't know about the plan that you have for the museum, I would be the ambassador to help spread the word.
Okay, so now we're going to get into some funk stuff.
Bring it on.
Way back in.
Yeah, let's do
We're going
that.
to test your memory.
Okay.
Because you were a child when all this was being grown and in its infancy.
Sure.
So now, give me a little history, as if I didn't know, on the Dayton funk sound and the groups that came from here.
Well, I would have to say my first, I guess it, like everyone else, the Ohio Players. I mean, when I got into the Ohio Players, I guess it was around Pain, Ecstasy, you know, that vibe, the whole Junie era. Ohio players were like, the music gods to a young cat like me who wanted to be like Sugar, be like Chet as a guitarist. You look at what they're doing and you're going like, you're amazed by it. So early on, the players, seeing them around the city, you can go up to West Town and see Sugarfoot and them with the butterfly car or whatever, you hear the stories about shoes lined up against the stairs and all that. But on the other side of that, the amazing thing is I never got to see the Ohio players perform in Ohio. I didn't see the Ohio players until I went to California. But Slave and all these cats were in the neighborhood. I think about Dante Taylor, who played with Sun. I think one of the first, we called it a band, but I took snare drum lessons at Resident Park, and I go over to Robert and Don Taylor's house and just jam on the snare drum. So I've been around it when I was around it when I was a kid. And I used to go hang out at Sun's rehearsal hall down there. And Sean Sandridge and Byron Bird and my good friend and brother Sheldon Reynolds, who's out in California and who plays in my band now. But Sheldon was in Sun, and Sheldon was the one that I would go down there and try to get in to watch them rehearse, and they wouldn't let me come in. But Sheldon was the one that let me come in and hang out by the amp, So, I got to see that little movement. I think that was around the time they did, what was the album with Jamming in Brazil?
I can't remember the name of the album. Was that Radiation Level?
It was after Radiation Level. It was like, Reaction Satisfaction, that album. But I got a chance to go in the studio, and that was actually my first ever studio experience. I got to go in and do hand claps. So I did. I got credit. I got my sisters and a couple of friends, and we went down there, and we got a chance to do hand claps, and they gave us credit. So if you look on that album, you'll see Alan Foster.
We'll put a picture of it up when we post this video.
Right.
Okay, so now, watch this. Why hasn't this been celebrated years ago? Meaning, why is it taking so long for people to realize that funk music was actually birthed here in Dayton, Ohio? Are we just passive here, or what's your take on that?
I think what it is. I think the audience, for music, especially in the urban community, we tend to go to the next thing and not celebrate the things that we already have. If you look at example, there's a music store in California called the Guitar Center, and every weekend you see the little white kids coming in with the ukuleles and the guitars to learn the fundamentals of country music and bluegrass, and you see these young people playing. I think as when hip-hop came on the scene, it kind of took away that thing of, like, when I was a child, I could see Ernie Isley. I could hear one of my all-time favorite guitar solos is Drac and Slide. That solo to me should be in the same conversation as Eddie Van Halen, because of the passion and the energy that young, 16, 18?
That's all he was.
Young. So I think as an audience, we tend to look for the next thing, and because of that, people move away from funk as a primary music, but it's still always there. It's always there. It ain't going nowhere. It ain't going nowhere.
Funk is funk.
Yeah. It comes in cycles. Eventually, we'll get back to it.
We're getting back to it now as you're a living reason as to why it's coming back.
Sure.
The sound was defining at the time.
Mm-hmm.
We still know it's used today.
Right.
Because it's being sampled in current music.
Sure.
40 years after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And like the Wright brothers, most people don't know that, a lot of these groups were born here in Dayton, Ohio.
Right.
So what are your feelings towards that? How do you feel about it? Them not knowing.
Well, again, I think it comes down to people understand the music and are aware of the music. They might not know the music makers. They may not know the history of it. And it's up to, like, the TheFunkCenter to make sure that we educate the young people, educate people about, That song that you hear every week on Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen was written by a group called the Ohio Players from a city named Dayton, Ohio. And if you look at that city, there was a time when 10 or 11 groups had deals. What was in the water, as people used to say? Why did it's like the same movement in Compton with hip hop, the same movement in Chicago blues or Memphis blues or whatever. Dayton had that thing with musicians that made it funky, and you know, I think the reason why we got away from it, I believe hip hop, and as great as hip hop, it did its thing, but what it did, it kept young people from going and wanting to play a bass guitar, wanting to play a lead guitar, looking at TV and saying, wow, you know, Daz Band, Keith Harrison on keys, maybe I could do that, you know. So I think hip hop took, especially the urban community, away from funk, away from R&B. But for a brief moment with gangster rap, you got that G-funk, and they were sampling, you know, those funk groups, Parliament Funkadelic Players and people like that. So it's always been there. It's just not having the spotlight that it had at one time. And it's really up to us to educate the young people so they know their history, to say, you know, you should appreciate the fact that we are musicians. We are vocalists. We are singers, you know.
And it's so funny that you mentioned that, so we'll go off script for just a minute.
Sure.
Because, you know, one of the Funk Center's main goals is to educate the children on not only funk music, but we want to bring instruction back into the urban society.
Sure.
You know, since they've taken it out of our schools. Is that something that you would be willing to come back and be like a master teacher?
Of course.
Is that something you can do?
I mean, I've always been, even when I worked at the Grammys, I've always lent my time to speaking to young people. I've always encouraged young people to pursue music or pursue their dreams or stay true to their music. And also I encourage them to find out where you came from. You know, what you're doing today may improve if you check out what came before you. Be a student of music. You know, don't just come in here with your little one-finger production. You know, your little one-finger melody line. Right. You come up with a little cliche hook and think that you are brilliant. You know, when I was younger, we come from the era of, you know, I studied Sugarfoot. I studied Ernie Isley. I studied these cats, not just the musicianship, but how to be a star. You know, right. It's one thing just to be a musician, but if you want to separate yourself from all the musicians, what's your uniqueness? Yes. And the great thing about the Ohio funk music was all the groups were unique.
They were unique.
Nobody sounded like each other.
It was funky.
It was funky, but Slave sounded like Slave. Ohio Players sounded like the Ohio Players. Daz Band had their vibe. Zap. Come on, Roger Troutman, to this day, I still, when I listen to the guitar part in More Bounce to the Ounce, as simple as that is, the feel of that lick is just still amazing. Oh my goodness.
You can't help but bounce.
You can't help but bounce. Yeah.
So, after all is said and done, and this is after the actual structure, meaning the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center, once it has been constructed and people start coming to Dayton, Ohio, to the Funk Center, what is the one thing you would like to see people walk away with once they leave out of the building?
I hope they walk away with feeling proud, especially if you're part of this city. If you're from Dayton, you should be proud of the accomplishments of this music. You know, this music has been used to not only sell products, but get people through hard times. You know, this music has done so much for the industry by influencing so many people. Look, Cameo. If you talk to Cameo, they'll tell you they were influenced by the Ohio Players. They were called the New York Players.
Climax said the same thing.
Climax also. So, and you know, groups like Lakeside. I mean, when Lakeside came out, that was in my high school era, like around sophomore. I think it was a sophomore. Look, I'm a guitarist. Steve Shockley had a style. You know, I was trying to be Steve Shockley, you know, because the brother, I love the way Steve played, and they were great songwriters too. So when they go to the museum, I hope they leave with the sense of being proud of the accomplishments of all these groups, you know, and educated on what it took to get the music out there, you know.
So now that you say that, in your opinion, why does the Funk Center or the Funk Music Hall of Fame and Exhibition Center, why does it belong in Dayton, Ohio?
You know, it belongs here because, again, this was the center of the funk. So, you know, it would feel, it's like asking why would you put the Auto Museum in Miami, Florida, not Detroit. You know, this was what Dayton, Ohio was the home ground and the birthplace of such great musicians, and not just the funk music, even before the funk music, gospel, jazz, all of this. So we've had a rich history of music. I think it's centrally located. I think this is the type of city that, you know, if you're in Chicago, you could come right over. If you're in the South, coming up from Georgia or something, it's centrally located. And I believe that had a lot to do with defining funk. Because when you bring in all those elements of the South and Chicago and New York coming right into the city of Dayton, we all know Dayton used to be called what? Little New York, Little Chicago, you know?
Crossroads are right here.
Exactly. So this is the perfect place to put the Funk Museum. Now, if you ask me, is this the place to put the Country Museum? No. I say no. But when it comes to funk, I challenge any other city to compare what this city has done musically, and a small city. This was not, you know, Dayton was not no Los Angeles or New York, but what it did, it brought that little energy of all those different, you know, the South, Midwest, and all of that. And I think that was key to creating this music. So it only makes sense that it's in here in Dayton.
Yeah, Dayton was a city of innovators.
Exactly.
So now we're about to wind this up. So now I think I've got two more questions just based on your conversation. So first, give us your fondest memory from your past experience in funk music.
Wow.
I know it's a lot.
You know that.
Keep it clean.
All right, I'll keep it clean. Well, I'll start with when I went to Dunbar High School, so I'm a Wolverine, Wolverines for life. And we entered a talent show. My band at that time, I was in a band called Plush, and we had Shawnee Mack in my band.
Yeah, he won last month.
Shawnee Mack, Paul Hawkins on drums, and a few other people, and we went and we played this talent show. And we were going up against this group, I guess Roth High School, I forgot, Soul Explosion or somebody. And they came in with the leather outfits and big amps and all that. And we had just went to Concord the night before and bought some matching outfits. But we came in, and before the show, Sugarfoot was backstage. And I was just in awe that Sugarfoot showed up. That was a great memory for me to see that, wow, he came to, I don't know why he was there.
Sugar was like that.
Yeah, it was good to see him come and be there. And we ended up winning the talent show.
Of course.
Yeah, so that was a great memory. Seeing the Solar tour with Lakeside when they came to the Hair Arena, that was a great memory. When I saw Heat Wave at UD Arena, I mean, it's like when the energy of that night, I think Shaka Khan and Rufus were the headliners, but after Heat Wave, people were walking out because they just stole, they killed it that night. And I remember that show. Johnny Wilder was amazing vocalist, and his energy that night performing. Wow, what else? Slave. I remember seeing them for their first concert in what was that? Was it UD or?
It was UD, right?
UD Arena.
Then we were at the same concert.
Yeah. I think they opened for, was it Earth, Wind and Fire or the Commodores?
Commodores. It was the Commodores.
Man, that concert, seeing these young kids on stage, and that let me know, you know what, I could do this.
Teenagers.
Oh yeah,
teenagers.
So that was a big impact on me to see these concerts, and that was another great thing about Dayton, Ohio. We had great concerts. All the concerts came through
Everyone.
Everyone. And I snuck in every one of them. I never paid.
We both did.
Never paid, man. But it was like if I heard they were coming, I was down at UD walking around waiting for the way to get in. That's right.
Now, lastly, just give the people a background. You know, we have a lot of fans, and they're all over, and we want to support your current project.
Sure.
So just really quick, how can, if possible, we come and see you play? When's the next time you're going to be out? That kind of thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Real quick. Your band.
Right.
Your band is made up of Daytonians.
Of course. When I started Alan Foster's Redemption, you know, I needed that funk. You know,
who you gonna get?
I mean, who am I gonna call? So I'm blessed. Like right now, my musical partner for years, Dorothy Wade. People probably don't know who Dorothy Wade is, but Dorothy Wade is, you know, like I said, the influence of this music. Dorothy and I started working on music around the time of Slave. So when that Starlina and Kurt thing was going on, it influenced me. And if you listen to Dorothy and my vocals on our music, it's kind of a Starlina Kurt vibe, you know. Dorothy Wade, amazing vocalist. Charles Jackson from, I think he went to Roth High School, but Charles has been singing with me for years. Larry Houston on keyboards, he's been playing with me for years. Recently, we've added Curdy Sanford. He plays drums with me now.
The Funk Master.
The Funk Master. And, of course, the legend that is Sheldon Reynolds. Sheldon's from Cincinnati, but Sheldon was in Sun, the Commodores, and then he replaced Maurice White as the lead vocalist in Earth, Wind and Fire. And I think he spent 15 years with Earth, Wind and Fire. Sheldon plays. I'm blessed to have Sheldon in the band. Yeah,
we're looking forward to it.
Sure.
We're going to come out there and support you any way we can.
Yeah, and it's like right now I'm working on a television project with the band. We're not. I don't have any shows in the near future, but this television project that I'm working on, it was a live performance thing. So I assembled the band for that, and I can't wait for people to see it. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, Mr. Foster, it's been a pleasure. So that was round one,
Sure.
which is just general questions for the Funk Center. And the next time we do this, we're going to be more into the music, and that, you know, we're interested in how you picked up the guitar, for instance. What's your favorite guitar? So round two coming up. Thank you for coming to Dayton, Ohio. And
oh, yes.
Been a pleasure meeting you.
Pleasure talking to you.
All right,
brother.
Alan. Later.
All right. Peace. Funk Center.
Thank you.